Welcome back, friends. It's another episode of The Mindful CEO. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, joined by Aaron Hendon, the other co-host. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very good. Am I the other co-host?
Yeah, well, I didn't have a fancy adjective for you today, so I just
Okay.
dumbed
I'm
it
just
down for everybody. Aaron is just the other co-host.
okay. Fine. I got it. Is there a
I
third?
thought your head got a little too big after I called
I
you
was just wondering if
bodacious
there's
last week.
another co-host, like a
Well, you
third
were
co-host.
bodacious last week, and I thought that was a little too, aggrandizing. So now you're
Okay.
just the other
Well, that
co-host.
was good for the guest that we got. All right, I'll take it. All right. Anyway. All right. Good.
Okay.
All right. I like it. I like it. I like it. All right. Well, this week, right? I know you've already met Tabitha, but Tabitha is just wonderful, and it was going to bring to us this whole conversation for 90 breath work and reprogramming our brains, and it's another level of the work that we've been doing regarding mindfulness and like that. And Tabitha, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself, and you can say a little bit about how you found us and what you're out to contribute to people and the world. And then we're going to jump in and play because we've already had a little experience of your work and it's super cool.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Tabatha DeBruyn. I live in Niagara-on-the-Lake, a little microclimate in Ontario, Canada, and I'm a transformational breath master. My journey has been a bit windy. I started out as a high school teacher for 15 years and loved it. I loved empowering students to be curious and know they were capable of whatever kind of life they really wanted to lean into. But as a high school teacher, my salary was capped and I had a desire for a bigger life. And I've been blessed. I have two boys. They're now 26 and 23. My husband and I have been together for 34 years. I feel it's like the seventh marriage within the marriage, if you understand, because we're always learning and growing. And I got into entrepreneurship. I started an online health and wellness business alongside teaching and loved entrepreneurship. And it blew up. And I was able to leave the classroom a year into that business. I love teaching, but the world became my classroom. I was able to take my kids all over the world to do mission work and to experience, like have adventures. And alongside my online health and wellness business, I started into transformational coaching. And I would have these incredible beings in front of me who had big desires, big dreams, and absolute capabilities, but a lot of limiting beliefs. I'm a curious cat. I went back to school and I studied metaphysical psychology and I studied rapid transformational hypnotic therapy so I could get out of just the conscious mind and into the subconscious mind and reprogram to help people net greater results in a rapid period of time. In the meantime, I was also a caregiver for my mom. She became really critically ill at 58 years old. And with
Mm,
entrepreneurship, I had some space and some tools to be able to support her. But in my extended family, there was a lot of PTSD and anxiety, panic attacks. So I got very curious about that area of study. And I had 10 extra years with mom. It wasn't easy, but I never left a visit with her without everything being said. Like I really felt like I got to live fully with her. And when she died at 68 years old, I knew I would grieve, but I didn't realize what I had been suppressing, which brings me
mm,
to somatic breath work because I was the one people go to when they are struggling. And yet I was fine as long as I was serving other people. But in
mm,
the privacy of my own thoughts, I was having panic attacks, insomnia, and functional burnout. And so I did it quietly because I was embarrassed. I didn't want anyone else to know, but I was seeking other tools. And I found conscious connected somatic breath work on the other side of a 90-minute somatic journey. I realized I had been suppressing anger and guilt and shame and frustration and sadness and disappointment and all kinds of stuff. And it all came to light in one journey.
mm,
And on the other side of that journey, I had a new sense of peace. My body was regulated, my mind was more clear, and I had a really profound understanding that I think I had to experience the depths of what burnout and anxiety can really feel like for somebody and know that there is a way out. So that's my windy way to somatic breath work. And thank you to you to let me help get the word out, because it can be a real tool that helps people.
Awesome. Wow. And I appreciate the honesty and the transparency. I think that's sometimes that's the stuff that gets in the way of people taking on the practices is, we want to look put together and we don't want to sort of show that vulnerable side. But I think that's the first
And it's
step
nice
there.
that, yeah, and it's brilliant that, we're talking to someone who's walked that walk, like someone who's not kind of at this, has come at this from a real life experience, from actually having taken that on for themselves.
Yeah.
Um, did you have a question, Chris, or?
Nope.
Okay, so Teresa, sorry, Tabitha. I don't know why I have Teresa in my head. Um, uh, Talk about how somatic breath work it differs from other healing modalities. Like, how did you come to that modality as your path?
So, breath work absolutely is the through line to everything that I do in transformational coaching, because when I can help people feel safe in the body, when I can change the state in the body, the physiology, then the mind follows. And then when the mind can actually reach for a better thinking thought, then if people want to, I can move into the subconscious brain, where 95% of that brain power is. We can let go of what no longer serves us, actually reprogram that subconscious brain, so innately we take different action from an aligned state. So yeah, breath is what I do. Is I teach very simple breath patterns to change the state in the body, and then so the mind works better as well.
Chris and I were just talking about this morning because I'm starting a Monday morning mindfulness meditation. Oh, there's 4 M's in it. God damn.
Moderation.
4 M's, Chris. You're
I
like,
mean, I like that.
you're
I like
dying
that.
over there. I only have 3 M's on the website, but there's for agents, and the first subject, I'm doing it for real estate agents because that's Chris and my background and one of the current things that I do. And we were looking at call reluctance, and the takeaway lesson or the takeaway practice for them is longer exhale. So it's 4 in, 2 hold, 6 out, just to activate parasympathetic nervous system. And that's just because, if you can, I think people have uh, it's not really unrealistic, but somehow it's a disconnected view of the way the mind body connection works. They think we are in the West particularly organized around, mind first, and then we can get our body into alignment. And it really is. I mean, I suppose you could, but it doesn't really work. It's funny too, because I would suspect that that's, why we have increased drug use and some way to calm the body down.
Hmm.
And breath is why I start all my mindfulness classes or trainings with breath work, is because it's the most accessible hands-on thing you can do. You can't change how your hair grows, God knows, right? Chris and I have tried, but you can change your breath, and that changes everything.
Yeah. So 90% of us in North America are, unless you're consciously aware of your breath, are in chronic fight, flight, freeze, and we don't even realize it. So that's become the familiar. So
Right.
what I do is I teach people how to be able to just quickly change their state. And maybe we could all do that together as listeners,
Sure.
whether listening, whether you're driving, it doesn't matter. This is safe for anybody. If you think about breathing in through your nose and into your belly, you actually want to breathe and expand the belly. Most people breathe in really shallow, in and out through the mouth, into the chest. Or if they do breathe, they tighten the abs as opposed to expand. So I'll have everybody I'll count you in 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath in through the nose, into the belly, and inflate it like a balloon. And now breathe out through the mouth like you're breathing through a straw, longer on the exhale. One breath. blood pressure went down, heart rate went down. And what I find really fascinating is you have more blood flow to the prefrontal cortex. So your brain is actually working better.
Mm.
So we just that can be like a superpower. And when you're regulated, the people around you are going to be more regulated.
Mm. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's great. And I really do think that we have that it's such an easy access, and it's so surprising to me that no one talks about it really. I mean, this is very much the banner that I fly and the dragon that I'm out to slay, and just the whole thing is that it's no, there's a million real estate conferences going on, or business conferences, sales conferences going on, and not one of those people on stage is going to teach people how to breathe. And that's so insane.
I just
That,
got back from Las Vegas. I did a breath work for human optimization, moving through imposter syndrome, breaking that upper limit, and knowing you are absolutely capable of more. There are 500 of us in this breath practice. And on the other side of it, they were different. It was a 20-minute corporate event. But more and more people are going to start to realize that this can make a big difference. You move the body and the mind follows. And then when the mind follows and the subconscious is actually anchored into that good feeling, then people take aligned action so they see better results.
Tabitha, do you find that I'll say CEO minded, well, you could say strategy minded, action oriented people who are not sort of hanging out in the space of mindfulness have pushback about these practices? And if so, how are you sort of warming them up to the idea of accepting this type of an approach?
They do. And then I get a set of headphones on them, much like what I had a chance. And I'm happy to give you the link that you listened to at the beginning, where
Oh,
people
nice.
have a chance to listen, understand. This is neuroscience. It's not magic. It's not woo woo.
right.
We're literally changing physiology and how the brain is working. So if I can get them to experience a little bit of it, and then on the other side of it, they feel the difference and they start to see results. So then they tend to be more open to it. But it's entertaining as well because it is breath. We'd use the breath, but then the 9D breath work is 9 dimensions to this modality. So we're using music, we're using frequencies. We frequencies in the music that bring homeostasis into the body. We use binaural beats that slow down the brain waves. We're using
Mhm.
hypnotic scripting that is actually connecting to that subconscious mind. People feel a difference in it, but they also start to see that they are acting different. So, manifestation is great to be in alignment. It's great to have that energetic frequency to be there. But when they're actually wanting to take action, they see the results. So, that usually is how people come around to it once they experience it.
I know, Aaron, you talk a lot in your book
Mm.
about the neuroscience of this. Like it's,
Yeah.
that it's not just like, we think we sit cross-legged on a cushion, and that's what it's not just a spiritual practice. There's science here. I know you say that in your book.
Yeah. I mean, it's all, eh, so were we talking to Russell? Was this when we were talking to Russell last week, that,
Maybe.
the East and the West all went out this way, and then we met down at the bottom, like where
Oh, I don't think we talked about
neuroscience
that
went
with
out
Russell.
and the woo-woo went out, and, like meditation went out, and it just meets
Yeah.
at it just meets. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
quantum
Yeah.
entanglement, law of manifestation, same phenomena, it's all vibration. It's all the same phenomena, and it's just different ways of expressing it. And we are, capable of measuring things today that we couldn't measure
Yeah.
before. And, we're capable of producing new things, to generate um,
Yeah.
different effects on the body. And it still comes down to, like Tabitha, we were talking about breath and body movement. I was recently at a tantric retreat and would start every day with some sort of breath, body, sound, you know, breath, body, yeah, breath, movement, and sound, having those three things, organized. And those are just, ancient practices, 3,000, 4,000 year old practices of moving your body, making, you talk about binaural beats and the sounds that those calm the waves down. And those are the not the moral equivalent, but the scientific equivalent of the mantras that have been used for, the sounds that have been used forever. And it's, in the West, you do binaural beats and you put on headphones and you get that worked out, and you can tap into, you don't get made fun of in circles because you're not chanting, but at work. But at the same time, the phenomena is the same. You're controlling your brain. You're controlling the way your brain operates. You're moving yourself from sympathetic to parasympathetic. You become more rational, more reasonable, and you're building up the muscle in your brain to maintain that when you're not listening to binaural beats or when you're not chanting.
Mm.
So I think it's unbelievable. It's fantastic.
So, breath is part of the automated nervous system. So, I teach people how to become consciously aware to use particular breath patterns to feel a certain way in the body. And we talked about the parasympathetic nervous system, where we want to be more of the time, and most people don't live there. That's that rest, digest, and heal. The fastest way to do that is nasal breathing, deep into the belly, longer on the exhale. But I work with a lot of high achievers with a lot of stress, a lot of pent up tension, where they're holding their tongue. And sometimes I put them in the sympathetic nervous system, that fight, flight, freeze intentionally. This is the key, intentionally for short periods of time to activate. It's way better than a cup of coffee. If I teach people to breathe in through the mouth, longer on the inhale, don't even think about the exhale. So the reverse of what we initially did, that changes the body in a very different way. If you breathe in, you do 10 of those breaths, you feel heat in the body. The blood pressure went up. The blood flow went away from the brain, away from those ruminating thoughts into the muscles. You all of a sudden feel more dynamic, more creative, highly motivated. And you also open up the subconscious mind. So there's going to be times where we use different breath patterns to create something different in the body. And I know you have a lot of high achievers on listening to your podcast. Sometimes a deep breath in through the nose, long on the exhale, their body can't even take that in. It's almost like you have to activate, maybe big long breath hold, ease everything, and give her a sigh, give her a yell, let something out to make space for something new.
Talk to me about, related to that. Aaron and I often explore sort of this balance between mindful practices and aligned action, that this is the tension between mindfulness and CEO-ness, which is what high achievers, I think, are sort of up to in the world. But how do you see the relationship between, let's say, breath work as a practice and aligned action?
Breath work, knowing when to use breath work that's going to downregulate, that's going to bring you back to safety, that's going to bring you back to alignment, back to rest, rejuvenate, recover, because we can go, go, go. So knowing when to use that is really important, because you can't have the lights on all the time. You got to be able to dim the lights. You got to be able to calm the body, bring safety back to the body. But then we also want to be able to next level things, optimize, and being able to move into that sympathetic nervous system, allow for that subconscious mind to bring new things to light, new creative ideas. Because, well, if you're in the familiar all the time, you're doing the same thing over and over again, you get the same result. Many of us as CEOs want new results, want to take things to the next level. So I think it's knowing when to use each of the breath patterns, having a trusted facilitator to take you from where you are to where you want to be is really important. And, we all have shit. We've all got stuff that we're dealing with. So sometimes we got to heal. You kind of have to slow down to go faster. So whether we're healing past trauma, could be generational trauma, could be little t trauma, big T trauma, could be addictions of all sorts that are keeping us from really optimizing. Somatic breath work can be a massive tool in your toolkit as a CEO.
I hear real intention in that. I think most people, when they think of aligned action, or if they start with breath work, if they think of breath work, they're thinking, I need to de-stress. I need to relax my brain. I mean, I think that's a lot of how people relate to meditation or whatnot. But this idea
Right.
that you could
Right.
use your breath with intention to affect which kind of action, which aligned action you want. Do I want aligned action to rest and recover? Do I want aligned action to create and generate stuff? Those are different types of action, and both can be taken with alignment, but using the intention of your breath, that's an interesting thought. I like that a lot.
If anybody is curious, I do a 30-minute complimentary discovery call if they go to my
That's great.
website, because you don't know what you don't know. Now, I have a whole library of journeys, and some are as short as 90 seconds, and some are 2 hours long. But if I get to know you and ask the questions, and then I can offer you what I think would be a really good starting point. My signature program is 7 days to a nervous system reset. And every day there are different transformational tools and breath patterns to be able to reach in, to be able to regulate and optimize in so many different ways. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Just to go back for a second, this thing with what the breath work is accessing, right, is um, something that I often refer to on the show is a great book, No Mind, No Problem. How I think the subtitle is How Modern Neuroscience is Catching Up to Buddhism. And he talks about in the book that what we consider to be the thinking mind, your conscious mind, is really a pattern generator, pattern seeking device that's driven by fight, flight, freeze, driven by the amygdala to look for threats. I don't remember where I was just talking about this, but just it's looking for. I must have been another podcast. We're looking for threats all the time. Oh, just what negativity bias. The whole world is, and it's the design. It's not a problem. It's not something that you need to work. It's good at its job. It's kept you alive. It's it, it's a function of natural selection that the bush rustles, you assume it's a tiger and you leave. And those that didn't leave, sometimes it wasn't a tiger, but sometimes it was, and those people didn't procreate, and that's how that works. And so we've got this pattern seeking threat avoidance device on call, not on call, but on at all times. But it's not really thinking, it's really having thoughts, it's really responding to threats. And I think what you're talking about is the breath work quiets that down and allows thinking, and you get to be now present, and you can now access wonder or curiosity or interest or creativity that is simply and the higher the threat, like someone walks in your office and they're upset, or my wife walks in and she's upset, or what my kids, anything that's even vaguely reactivating reminds me of something in the past that's going to be problematic for. I'm not going to have thoughts. I'm not going to have new thoughts. I'm going to have responses. I'm going to have reactivations. I'm going to have get me out of here kind of thoughts.
I'll teach you a breath pattern for that, because it's a trigger, it's an activator.
Mhm.
When you start to feel that. But the more you start to become aware, awareness is the first step to any kind of transformation. So you realize, oh, I'm in reaction. I'd love for you to do the physiological sigh. You can do this really discreetly, even with your wife right there as well. You take a deep breath in through the nose, into the belly, about 60%.
Mm-hmm.
And then another sniff of air into the chest. Now, if you can, and you're by yourself, do an audible sigh. Scientifically, the fastest way back to alignment. So it's the brain has more blood flow, heart rate went down, blood pressure went down, but the person that you're with, because you took that pause as opposed to on the heels of whatever she said, activation and reacting, that person will feel that energy between you and feel more seen, heard, and felt just by taking that bit of a pause, you regulating. And then you'll be able to respond rather than react, at least a little bit.
Good. We'll talk about alignment for a minute. Aligned with what? Let's get into that because that's,
That's a weird question, but I love it. I love it. And can I just say, when you said you can tap into wonder, you got it. That epitomized what I have the chance to help people do when they regulate their system. But what is alignment? I think we have to back up a little bit. Alignment comes to when you feel safe in your body, but clear in your mind. And when you feel clear in your mind, I think you have to know who you want to be in this world. And that's one of the things I do is I teach people, like, let's come up with a clear identity statement. Who do you really want to be? And if you feel safe and you know who you want to be, your standards are very, very clear. Your decisions are very clear throughout the day. I think that's what helps people come into alignment. Did that make sense?
Yeah, it does to me. I think, but what's interesting, this was a prompt I wrote down here a week or two ago, and I can't remember who sort of inspired that prompt, but this thought that there is authenticity is a very popular word. It's a good concept. It's and I've really valued authenticity for a long time. But there's this authentic to what? Authentic to who I thought I was, authentic to who I wish I want to be. Like that there is, where does having an alter ego or designing some new identity statement for me feel like I'm not being authentic versus creating who I actually want to be? It's just an interesting sort of like a mind screw a little bit.
Yeah.
Almost everyone I work with, this is what they say, but then I'm lying. So I just tweak that a little bit. I am becoming. I'm in the midst of becoming. If you can reach that and that feels aligned to you, then I think you're stepping into evolution. Sorry, Aaron.
No, that's good. That's excellent. I mean, that's Chris and I do a lot of work about alignment and building your cathedral and your big why and what we're doing here, everything beyond hustle culture, like no one gets on their deathbed and thinks, I can't believe I didn't close that deal. It's not what their life is for. And there's not, and why we have one of the driving forces behind the show is there's just not enough public conversation for why are you doing anything? But why are you interested in that? Like there's just not it's all assumed. It's all, and it really, as long as you're not actively asking it, if you're not actively asking the question from wonder, from curiosity, from openness, then you're just driven by fight, flight, or fright, and you're just going through the motions, and you'll get to the end of your life at some point when it happens, and you'll have, look, we're all going to wind up there, but the question is what, like what's the dash, on your headstone going to be for?
Where's the joy? Where's the joy?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I think that's the challenge with, I can see it in my own, some of this is, I think, stages of life. You get to that midlife space where you start to question sort of how you've been doing it and what do you actually want to do for the rest, the second half or the last third or whatever it is. And you start to reevaluate some of those things, like some of that, like, who do I want to be? What's my new identity that is worth my headstone? But I think in the space of business and entrepreneurship, mental health is such a thing in entrepreneurship. I mean, the stakes are higher, the risks are more, the pace is faster. There's a lot of fight or flight in that. And I think when people can begin to notice rather than just like, oh, I'm gonna do it because I need to make money. Like this is why that's such a predominant conversation, because they haven't had an ability to take in what else there is. There's no wonder, no joy. There's only I need quarter over quarter improvement. I need KPIs. I need whatever. And that's running a lot of, I'll say, our country. That's running a lot of culture and society in terms of how we show up to the choices we make, I think.
I really think breath can be a tool where you can have both. You can come back to self,
yeah,
you look at yourself, and you can optimize as a human. And if you have a facilitator who really wants to hold space for your authenticity and your growth and your healing, I think it can make a world of difference. I know it has in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important that because Chris, I'm just thinking about, when as we put together whatever
Yeah.
program we're going to put together,
Yeah.
um, I think it just really all comes down to slowing the fuck down. It really, everything just comes down to slowing the fuck down. It's just because there are people that are talking about why, right? There are people who are talking about, um, know your why. It's the best-selling book. People know
Yep.
that. It's not news to them, but they don't slow down enough to internalize it, to make it useful. And I think breath work if for no other reason, is that you have to slow down enough to start it.
Yep.
Just the slowing down of it. Forget about the pattern itself, whatever pattern you want. Oh, and there's this really cool app. Tabitha, I'm wondering if you know this app. I just want to see if I have it here. Um, yeah, it's called. Let's see, what's it called? It's called Awesome Breath.
I don't know that one. I'll have to look it up.
Okay, it's super super cool. So it's a free app, and you can set the inhale, the hold, the exhale, and the exhale hold to whatever you want, and the duration, all that stuff. You can set it to whatever you want, and it's a really, I don't know, can you see it? It's just a really nice visual. You can, see, yeah, it's expanded, like you breathe in, whatever you set it at, and then hold, and then, so it's super cool. And then it's got, um, yeah, presets: box breathing, relaxing breathing, equal breathing, measured breathing, triangle breathing. So it's got a bunch of presets, and then you can set your own. Free app. It's such a great tool, and it's so visually pleasing too. And I bet it sounds good too. Yeah.
Does it have haptics on it? Like, can you feel it when it gets to the top? Like it
No,
vibrates in your hand?
it doesn't have haptics. Pause. But it does give you the verbal cues.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Exhale. And I don't know if those are binaural, but I wouldn't be
Can we change
surprised.
the voice though? Because I don't think I could do that. Can we change
You
that
know what,
voice?
Chris? It's my voice. You get the app with my voice.
It's your
But
voice.
but it's, super cool. Oh, what was the other breath work that I did recently that blew my mind? Oh, it was the Wim Hof. Like,
Mm,
holy shit. That's
nice.
like his stuff is crazy. Changes those that do you know who Wim Hof is, Chris?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The Iceman.
The Iceman. That
Yeah.
shit's but that's, it's not magic. He's not a wizard, although he looks like a wizard. It's very cool. It's a good look. It's a good look. If your name's going to be Wim Hof, you should look like that. So I'm in favor of it. But yeah, awesome breath. I think that's the name of it. It's just a great tool.
I have to come and try a 9D breath journaling journey. It'll blow your socks off.
That's great. I will definitely check that out.
We'll put that actually, Tabitha, in the show notes. So you said you had a link for people to
Awesome
try that. We'll
breathing.
put that in the
Yeah.
show notes for people to try. I think that's great. Aaron and I got to try it, everybody, before we started recording, and it was great. I mean, I've had different versions of facilitated meditations and whatnot, but it's really cool to see all of those different the dimensions, all those different dimensions layered in one experience. It was very cool. Well, that might be a good place to stop, Aaron. I
I think
mean,
it's a good place to stop.
yeah. Tabitha, if people want to learn more about your work, to work with you as a facilitator, I mean, where can people go to dig in more?
If you go to tabatha.online, you can sign up for my newsletter. You'll get a couple of freebies: that cinematic trailer, a 5-minute reset, a
Okay.
7-minute morning routine. But it's tabatha.online. And follow me on Instagram. I like to play on
Yeah.
Instagram. Come into my DMs, Facebook as well. And
Love
that's
it.
just Tabatha DeBruyn.
Love it. Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes. Aaron, thanks, man. I mean, I feel like we're up to, or at least we're hosting the conversation here. And I always appreciate the questions you bring, the thoughts and perspectives you have. So thanks, co-host. Thanks,
Thanks,
sir.
other co-host.
Thanks,
It's
other
great.
co-host.
All right. Like it, subscribe, review, do all that good shit.
That's
And we'll
right.
see you next week. Or
We'll see you
you'll
next
see
time.
us next week.
Yes.
We'll never see you. That's never going to happen.
That's right. Thanks, everybody. Catch you next time. Bye.